Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Gary Allen, and today we're talking about best-in-class technology. It's part of our best-in-class webinar series. We'll have at least three parts about technology, and this is the first part where we'll be talking about a different way to think about your technology stack, and particularly how to get the most out of Microsoft 365. So let's get on with it. So very excited to be working with the Association of Legal Administrators today. LeanLaw is a approved provider for ALA educational activities. For those of you who aren't familiar with the organization, it's the Association of Legal Administrators. They are focused on education and community. So they have a certificate of legal management that you can get along with a lot of educational activities like we're doing today. And they have a great community where you can meet other people in like positions. I know people love that about the organization. So if you're interested in learning more about ALA, just write ALA and then your city in the chat, and we will put you in touch with a chapter to learn more about the organization. Just a little bit about me before we dive into things. I am a 35-year practicing attorney. I recently retired from working in a 40-lawyer mid-sized law firm. Early in my career, I had a lot of pain from bad business practices in law firms. I had two firms actually blow up while I was in them. And one of them left me on a Saturday afternoon with no job and a 6-month-old baby to feed. And unfortunately, I landed with an exceptional firm after that and enjoyed all the benefits of that, most of which were not monetary. But there was that too. And all of that gave me a passion to help make law firms into better businesses. Along the way, I've had the experience of creating a startup from the beginning, which called LeanLaw, which is a legal billing software company. You'll learn more about that a little bit today as well. I'm really excited to have Misty Murray join us. She's the owner and CEO of Arrow Consultants. She's also got a long career in the legal industry in various capacities, so she knows the industry inside and out. And what she's here today to talk about is Microsoft 365, where she is a formidable expert about how to use that in your mid-sized law firm. So welcome, Misty.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. All right, so what we're going to try to accomplish today, at the end of this webinar, you're going to understand some important context, which we call the 3 Ps of best-in-class mid-sized financial performance. It's kind of everything you need to know how to make your firm a top performer, and those are people, process, and product. We'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. We have 2 focuses today. One is how do you create a best-in-class technology stack to support that best-in-class financial performance? And then, as I mentioned, getting the most out of Microsoft 365. So let's talk about those 3 Ps for just a minute. So as I mentioned, they are people, product, and process. When we talk about our people, that starts with culture. You need to have a culture that supports people who are going to be successful in private practice, who are client focused, who understand how to work well in a private law firm. And there's a whole sequence about this that we talk about in another webinar. Then it's about having a right compensation system. You need to create the right incentives and the right accountability. So I'm a big fan of objective compensation systems in law firms. If you've been through that webinar, you know that, just because it makes that simple and automatic to get those things that you want. And then succession, because who wants to work for a law firm that's going to go to shut its doors when the founder retires? When we're talking about product, we're talking about really understanding your customers and their needs so you can give them the right offering with the right pricing. and then marketing appropriately to that market. That's quite different depending on whether you're a B2B business or a B2C business. And then finally, process. It's keeping low overhead. It's having a light and easy to use technology stack that supports the production that you need. And it's documenting and following your key processes in your firm. If you do all of those things, you can achieve best-in-class financial performance. And, sort of the big picture here is just keep it simple, because lawyers want to practice law, and they are, their law firms are partnerships by and large, where your producers are the partners. So you want them focused on producing and not managing. And that's why you need a simple, efficient system to run your firm. As I mentioned, we have a series of webinars that we put on about best-in-class performance. We're now on the third one in that series. We've talked about a financial report card. We've talked about alignment and incentives, the compensation system. Today, we're taking that first step into best-in-class technology. As we go on this fall, we're going to talk more about the people issues in October and November. December and January are talking about technology security and AI, very important topics. February and March, we're talking about products and services and how to get those right in your firm. And then April, May, June is more about leadership and business types of issues. So we hope you'll join us for those. We'll also have some sort of spin-off webinars for more niche topics within all of these things. So we're excited to put these on. We'll hope you'll join us. With that, I want to turn to technology and just give you some context. We are now in what I call the fourth generation of technology for mid-sized law firms, which really creates an opportunity for law firm transformation. Really quickly, those four generations are: in the early 80s, we first had desktop computers, made the individual much more productive. In the 90s and 2000s, the second generation was on-premise server-based technology. So now your whole office could work together better than they could in the past. In the 2010s, we now are able to contact the cloud and get information from outside the organization, but they tended to be closed systems. So you could not connect with, and integrate with a lot of other things. But in the last few years, we now have software because of open APIs and because of, better internet connections and all of that, what I call the fourth generation of technology, which is both cloud-based and integrated. So now that gives you an opportunity to work from anywhere and get whatever information you need from whatever source and bring in all of the different technology and put it together. So that's the promise of fourth generation. But the question I've got at the outset here is this legal technology transforming law firms? And let's just begin by doing a quick comparison with technology and manufacturing. So if we think about the cost of computer memory and storage, sort of the basic tech productivity measure, that has actually gone down 1 million times since the 1950s. And it continues to go down according to Moore's law. And so, remarkable success story there. A factory worker is more than 50 times more productive than they were in 1870. So how does that compare to law firms? Well, law looks pretty much the same as it did in 1870. We don't wear wigs anymore, but the trial is still the same. A lot of the things, the types of documents that lawyers create are the same. The level of productivity is pretty similar. So we have a lot of inefficiency that we're looking at compared to the way other things have transformed. And this inefficiency is a big burden. That's what I lived as a lawyer And I think, it's not just about money, but it's about other things. So, in professional services as a whole, efficiency is largely stagnant. It's hard to measure output. I think overhead as a percentage of revenue relative to production is the best measure. Now that's been 45 to 50% of what law firms earn revenue for as long as I can remember. Really isn't changing through the industry. That's $150 to $200,000 a lawyer in overhead in most places. And this overhead is really painful to the lawyers, to their clients, and to society, I submit. And there also are some non-tech factors that hamper efficiency in law firms. Lawyers want to practice law. It's almost a universal truth. And they're not that interested in management, with rare exceptions. Lawyers have very little business or technology training. There were exactly 0 courses on how to run a law business offered at Stanford Law School while I was there. Firm culture can be anti-efficiency, essentially saying that law is a profession and not a business. You hear that a lot from older lawyers. The billable hour works against efficiency. The more you bill, the more you make. So you don't have the right incentives lined up there in many cases. Lawyers can be tech phobic, especially in older generations, making that adoption more difficult. And law has really never had that near-death moment that other industries like manufacturing have had, where they just had to become more competitive. So let me turn to the question of that Gen 4, the 4th generation software opportunity. Why has this not improved law firm efficiency? First, it's pretty new. It's only been out there a few years, so we're still learning how to use it. It's not being used systematically in most law firms. And, many firms are using all-in-one practice management software, which, as you'll hear more today, has some real inherent problems. It has a lot of features you really don't need that you are provided in the software. It has a lot of features that overlap with core applications, and it tends to be a jack of all trades and a master of none in my experience using it throughout my career. And the last thing is that there just are a lot of gaps in workflow automations. So, and every one of those gaps is filled with an expensive manual process, creating more inefficiency. So lots of opportunity to do better, but this is kind of why I think we haven't done better already. The final thing I wanted to do, and we do a whole webinar on this, is just to understand how expensive that inefficiency is. So let's briefly compare an average law firm with an efficient law firm. So I've looked up the numbers for law firm utilization, which is the amount of time capacity that you use, how busy your lawyers are, how much time is written down, the realization, collected bills, so the collection rate and the overhead rate. So in an average firm, 45% utilization rate leaves $200,000 per lawyer unused if you assume somebody's billing 1,800 hours at $300 an hour, has a capacity to do that. And you go down the line here, you wind up with a profit of about $120,000 a lawyer in that average firm, which is, that's not nothing. But compare that to a firm that really is best in class, which is where we're trying to get everybody with this webinar series. The capacity problems are, or unutilized capacity is much smaller, and all of these things are relatively smaller as well. You can triple the profit in that firm. So, hope everybody, there's like I say, a whole webinar to go through the details of that, but you've got a huge opportunity to increase the efficiency of your firms. So does that efficiency matter? You know, higher, and I'm just not talking about, you know, just making more money, but higher efficiency means a lot of other things that I think are maybe even more important. You have less pressure to bill. You have more time with your family. You have more pro bono and community service opportunities. You have the opportunity to offer lower cost services if that's right for your market, and to create more creative offerings. So how do we get there? And this is where we turn to best-in-class technology, which is the alternative to that all-in-one we're talking about. So the way I think about this is that your tech stack, when you're doing that, you're building your dream home. So let's talk about how you do that. So if you're building your dream home, you want to have the right team. You need an architect, you need a builder, you need contractors. Most of us are not going to do that by ourselves. I certainly don't recommend it, especially if you want to stay married. Then you make a plan. So, and you want, this is your dream home. So you want it to be a plan that you love. Then you build a strong foundation for the home. You add the customizations that you want for your, you know, your comfort and how you want to live. And then you create a flow in all of the busy areas in this. And this is really equivalent to integrations in software. Where things are busy, you want flow and integration, and you design for that as you build this out. So let's look at each one of those things. First, the right team. As I mentioned, DIY is really not an option here. So you need, you know, you're really making decisions for the next 10 to 20 years in your firm. So you might need all of these. The right software partners, companies that are going to work with you and, you know, really make their product work well for you as an ongoing matter. Secondly, you're going to need an accounting expert, whether that's in-house or outside. Strategic IT professional. I'm not talking about somebody who can fix your computer, but somebody who is an architect who can design the system that you need. And then the right business consulting, potentially, if you need help understanding what are the metrics that you really need to be tracking, and what sort of reporting do you need. And then the last one, since, you know, MS 365 is so essential and doesn't come the way you need it out of the box, you need somebody to help you configure Microsoft 365 so it meets the needs of your firm. So here are people that we work with from time to time, just to give you some examples. Karen Anderson, a great QuickBooks accountant. Andrew Shear, an IT professional. Sean Patchen is a business consultant. And then to Misty Murray, who's somebody we're talking with today. But, you know, you need people of this caliber to help make this transition for you. Let's talk about sketching a plan for just a second. So every business has three main elements. It's got production, so it's creating the documents and the work that you sell to clients. It's got marketing and sales, and it's got operations and finance. So the floor plan of your dream house needs to accommodate all of those functions. Then you need to assess the tech requirements and capabilities that you need. Figure out what's a must-have, what's a nice-to-have. You know, write down all those requirements, and I suggest doing that in as much detail as you can figure out. And then figure out, okay, what tools are going to help me to do each one of those things. So, you know, everything from your email and documents and case management down to your accounting and other finance and banking, all of that needs to be mapped out to really get the right flow and functionality out of your system. So this is what, when we talk about the dream house, here's a visualization of it. So you've got your foundational applications here, the industry standards, Microsoft 365, CRM, QB, accounting tool like QuickBooks. You've got the customization layer to customize these applications for law, and then production and fintech apps that you can add on top to fill in gaps, and then all connected by integrations. So let's talk about each of those things really quickly, and then we can turn this over to Misty to talk about the MS365 part. So in laying the foundation, virtually all of you are using Microsoft in some form. Now, if they're Google shops here, you can do the same thing with Google, so it's the same idea, but almost everybody's using this. So this is, your core productivity tools: email, calendar, documents, and all, of course, all in a secure environment. So all of that is, available, and 100 other things that we'll hear about as well. If you may have a need for a CRM or customer resource management system. This is a very sophisticated contact system where you run your marketing. If you're a B2C firm, you're probably business to consumer firm, you may have need for something like this. We're not going to focus on that today, but that is something to consider. And then you've got your accounting tool, and we're most familiar with QuickBooks. So talking about it, that's your accounting and reporting, your money in applications like invoicing and payments, and your money out like payroll, accounts payable, expense management, and so on. And again, very important to have a highly secure environment there. Then you want to automate those core workflows. So now, we're talking about SharePoints and Teams. You'll hear all about this from Misty. This is your case and matter management system, your client portal, et cetera. And I put this case study up here because this was, one of our clients who went through an MS365 customization as part of adopting LeanLaw, and had some really great results out of that. So, that will be in the materials you are pointed to after the webinar if you're interested in reading that. So that's that. LeanLaw, let's see, did I have a slide just on LeanLaw? Yes, so with LeanLaw, we're now talking about your law-specific finance. So it's your timekeeping and billing, comp tracking, trust accounting, reporting, invoice delivery, and payments. LeanLaw is just an example. There are other apps like TimeSolve that do similar things. But you need to have those core functions covered, because QuickBooks really isn't as configurable as MS365, and you need something law specific as an add-on. Here we put another case study in here about sort of the benefits from that type of automation using LeanLaw and QuickBooks. So just to give you a little sense of how LeanLaw works, creates automated workflows. We have professional timekeeping and invoicing. So to the point where you can fully automate emails to send to people that include payment links, account summary, fully configurable invoices that you can use. So this is where you get those higher productivity that are going to help bring down that overhead. This is where we manage the invoices and the invoice workflow. We want bulk functions in here and lots of different ways to manage the invoice in email, print, etc. You want a fully automated trust accounting system, which is something that we offer. This is what that looks like. Compensation tracking is something that's really important for firms, especially if you're using those objective systems. And then, of course, reporting, we call that Lean Insights. So you can see these are the sort of out of the box reports that we produce. Mostly these help you to bill and collect efficiently. And then there also are advanced reports to do, other things, the more business management type of things that you need in your firm. This is, another way to look at that. We have customized reports that allow you to visualize and provide detail of all sorts of different functions. So then you can, once you have those core systems in place, then you can start adding specialty applications. And I'll run through these really quickly. So on the production side, that's things like document management, docketing, e-discovery. If there's something in MS 365 you don't want, or that doesn't meet your needs, you can integrate with other outside applications. And the same is true on the finance side with things like AP, expense management, et cetera. So here's a list of production specialty apps you might look at for document management or docketing or e-discovery or project management. I'm not going to go through those, but you've got a lot of choices there for gap filling, which this best-in-class structure allows you to take advantage of. And these are some of the finance specialty apps we like. Ramp is a really cool credit card management system. Benefits through something like Ease, payroll through Gusto, pay bills with bills.com, lots of options there. Then finally, we talk about integrations. And what I want you to visualize here is the pillars are really important when it comes to integration, because that's where your core workflows are going. You're integrating through SharePoint and Teams and Microsoft 365. Obviously, that's a native integration, but those production apps that you add, like a document management system, you want that to integrate very deeply, because that's something you're using all the time, and you want to make sure those functions are well automated. Same thing on the finance side. So, LeanLaw has a very deep integration with QuickBooks to create those automations. You want that with those fintech apps as well. The way that things integrate across the pillars may be less important. That between your billing system and your production system, you may only need the client and matter to integrate. You may not need every single piece to integrate, and just because that's not used as much. So we call this integrating wisely. So there are certain things that we want a really deep integration with. QuickBooks and Confido is our payment system. You want those to integrate really well. Microsoft and any document systems that you use. Other things you may be able to do just fine with something like Zapier, or with jumping into an API and creating a custom integration. So when you put all that together, that is your dream house and the type of system that you can create using a best-in-class system that's built on these industry standard applications. If you're using an all-in-one system, it's one size fits all. And so you get a home that's more like this. It's a perfectly fine home, but probably is not going to give you everything that you want. I'm put this in here just to point out the importance of creating a proper process to change and using a proven model to manage change, like the ADKAR model, which stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Won't go into this in detail, but you need to have that just because change is really hard in every firm. So the takeaways from my part of this is, one is understand those 3 Ps, the people, process, and product. That's what creates transformation, not software by itself. You want to build on industry standards and customize them for law. Add those specialty applications as you need and integrate them wisely in the ways that are most important, and then manage the change from your current system to that one. And that's the way to get to a best-in-class financial performance. We are excited to help you with this. We have a community we have just opened in school.com. You'll get this information in your email after the webinar. You'll also get copies of the slides and recording, our law firm financial report card, and lots of other content in there that we're building every day. So thank you for my part of this presentation. And now I want to turn it over to Misty to tell us all about Microsoft 365.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Can you see my screen here?
I can see it.
All right, today we're going to talk about blueprints for change and remodeling your legal practice with Microsoft 365. Or perhaps you're going into a new law firm and you're going to help them build from the ground up. So this could be perhaps building your legal practice with Microsoft 365. I'm Misty Murray. You probably already saw the slide, different picture, but I'm a litigation and trial paralegal, Microsoft 365 innovator and coach. But I have had many roles in the legal industry, and I wear my paralegal hat, as you can see in this picture, very loudly and proudly. I love what I do and who I do it for. So 25 years of case management systems. Really, if you think about all the years that I've been in this industry, I've really gone through a ton of them because I've gone through all four of those generations that we spoke about earlier. ProLaw, My Case, Abacus, Rocket Matter, Clio, all of these I have moved out of. Abacus was my last one. And so out of the 25 years that I've spent in this industry, I've spent 16 years of those moving out of case management systems that no longer served me, my cases, my team, or my firm. So when we think about that, we have to sort of ask ourselves, why do we keep moving? Why are we always searching for the latest and greatest things? So the reason why we keep moving is because of exactly what we talked about earlier. They're too expensive. A lot of these case management systems are really expensive. I think ProLaw's back office alone cost my firm around $40,000. I think Abacus cost us around $30,000. And that is an incredible overhead that has so many ripple effects, and not just the legal industry, but in your communities as well. So if they're not too expensive, they have too many features, perhaps. They throw spaghetti against the wall and they see what sticks. And if you don't use it, then you just have to watch that spaghetti. It's still there in your view. And so there are just way too many features in a lot of these because they try to make it a one size fits all. And that's just not the way that the legal industry works. Are there too little features? Yes, a lot of those had way too little features, just not enough to keep the wheel moving forward, and way too many manual processes. And when I asked IT professionals about the things that I wanted to do in the vision that I had, they always told me, well, that's not invented yet, or nobody has that yet. And I really hate hearing those words. So limited access is another huge issue. A lot of your case management systems, especially today, have single points of entry. You'll log onto a website, you put in your credentials, and then you have access to all of your data. Perhaps there's no mobile application, there's no desktop application. And when your single point of entry fails, it means you lose access to your data. And if you're billing by the hour, that's a huge issue. So learning curve is the other issue, a very, very steep learning curve. I think it took my law firm a year to adopt ProLaw when it came out. And it took us an incredibly long time to train the administrative people in the firm that were going to train the individual users of the firm. And it took a long time. It was a very, very, very steep learning curve. And so, with all of this, it became inefficient and ineffective. Systems become homework, and users no longer want to use them when they become homework. And so, they're inefficient and they're ineffective, especially with today's legal industry, today's legal landscape. So, let's take a look at some staggering statistics that I came across in a report published in 2020. 52% of law firms at that time were using some sort of case management system. And that meant that 48% of law firms weren't using anything, or they were pulling together some sort of Frankenstein system to put their case management system together. And that 52% drops by 1% per year. And if you think about it, this report was published in 2020. And if that's the case, these two numbers have changed. 48% of law firms are using some type of case management system, and 52% aren't. I do a lot of legal malpractice work too, and that could lead to legal malpractice issues. All right, so let's keep looking at these statistics. Law firms with 2 to 9 employees report the least access to case management systems. Those smaller law firms, those mom and pop shops, they can't afford those expensive solutions. So they just don't have anything, or they're Frankensteining something together. But law firms with 100 plus employees report that they have access to case management systems, but 2% of those people aren't even using the case management system that's offered to them. Why? It's inefficient, it's ineffective. There are too many bells and whistles. They're not getting the job done. They just want to practice law. So, what can we do about this downward trend, and how do we future proof our legal practices? Well, the way that we start doing that is by building sustainably. We talked earlier in this webinar about building sustainably. Building sustainably isn't just for your home, it's for your legal practices as well. And if we're building sustainably, we're creating legacies, and that law firm will live beyond the partners and it will continue. Innovating with purpose. We're going to talk about the one-stop shops that you have, those case management systems, do not allow you to innovate. They are putting you in a box, and that box is what you have to work with. I tell my kids, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And that's kind of what software developers have been doing with us when it comes to case management. So we're going to talk about that a little bit further. Empowering our people. A lot of the times when we scale our law firms, that means we have to dedicate the time and energy to get the training materials to those people and empower them to handle our clients and our cases and work with our team. So we're going to talk about that more as well. So where do you start in this endeavor? Well, I want you to look at Microsoft 365. You probably have it. Lots of people do. But I think that people look at it and fear that it's a little daunting, and they say, I'm using Outlook, I'm using Word, and that's enough. That's fine. But I want you to take a deeper look at Microsoft 365 because it is building sustainably. Microsoft 365 isn't going anywhere. Microsoft isn't going anywhere. It's been here supporting our businesses since the 70s. And by mid-October, October 14 of 2025, in fact, anyone who wants to use products such as Word, Excel, Outlook, and so on will be required to have a Microsoft 365 subscription. This has been published by Microsoft for quite some time. By October of 2025, if you have a Windows 10 operating system, Microsoft will stop supporting you. And your Outlook and your Word will no longer sync with Microsoft 365. So like many other software developers out there, Microsoft has said membership is key, and you have to have this membership to use our products. They're really unifying us, though, in using these products, and we're not going to have to worry about version controls anymore and compatibility issues. So when we talk about innovating with purpose, by leveraging the power of practical solutions with Microsoft 365 apps, you're innovating with purpose. And here's the deal, guys. I want you to stop reinventing the wheel and start innovating it instead, using the practical solutions that you have available at your fingertips. So, by developing these workflows that are uniquely designed for your practice, your team, your cases, you're innovating with purpose. You have the ability to customize this solution. Fostering community and collaboration with organized workspaces. Fostering community and collaboration is key to the growth of your firm. Making sure that everybody is on the same page, checks and balances are happening, and that there are organized workspaces for your team to work in and on while they're working for your matters and for your clients. Very big. I know we have File Explorer for Windows. I know we have Finder for Mac, but we shouldn't just be living in there and thinking that those are the collaborative spaces. All right. So empowering our people, basic user training regarding the resources available with Microsoft 365 apps. I know that there are a lot of apps in there, but there are an incredible amount of resources in there. And if you provide some basic user training and teach people how to navigate through the apps, how to use these apps, and how to execute them specifically for you, your unique practice, then you're really empowering your people to take care of your clients and thus take care of your firm. Designing and deploying an intranet for practice resources, templates, guides, checklists, and more importantly, training. I already talked about that. Training takes time and it does keep people from scaling. So if you build an intranet for your firm, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more later, then you're really providing a jump off point, a centralized starting point for the people in your firm. You're giving them a place to go for resources and to train. Do you want them pulling a motion to compel from 10 years ago where that case isn't relevant today or that argument isn't relevant today? No. We would like to point our people exactly where they need to be and with the resources that we want them to have. All right. So, if we're thinking about remodeling or building our legal practices, and instead of reinventing the wheel and innovating the wheel, then we're really the general contractors of our own practice. And if we're going to be that general contractor remodeling the legal practice, then we need to open up our Microsoft 365 toolbox. Hey, I know that a lot of people feel like Microsoft sets you down in an Ace Hardware. And they said, here you go. These are all your tools. There are instructions in every single one of these boxes. And it meant that you had to look in every single one of those boxes. We're going to look in a few of those boxes today. So, this tool belt, this toolbox of yours is very powerful and it has a lot of tools in it. And so if we're thinking about that toolbox, we want to start with a clean slate, a solid foundation, for our firm. And to do that, we're going to push in SharePoint. Case management with SharePoint is going to provide you those collaborative spaces that you need to pull all of your Microsoft 365 apps together to make them talk to one another. I'm a sports person. I love football. And so I tell people SharePoint, it's your football field. All those other applications that you see within Microsoft 365 are players on those fields. But they're also very powerful tools in that toolbox of yours. So this is SharePoint, ladies and gentlemen. This might not be what you get out of the gate from Microsoft, but this is something that you can create yourself or use an API, fully configured automated solution to pull this together for you. This is a collaborative space for my team for this case, full of resources, a calendar, a document library, and so much more. So we're going to pull back and bring that toolbox back in, and we're going to take a look at the foundational tools that we need to thrive in our case management systems. We need a way to manage our emails, especially now in a very digital world. I get around 200 emails a day. If I had to convert each one of those to PDF and save it to somewhere on my network, that would be a job within itself. And with those email attachments, my clients dump on me. They're using Gmail and they send me about 6 emails with 10 attachments apiece and said, here you go. You determine what's discoverable. Of course, that's my job to do it, but working in a digital space with digital email and digital files attached to it, you have to save those things one by one unless you have a more automated solution. Documents, notes, calendaring, task management, time management, and communication, and all of it. These are foundational things that we need, tools that we need to build our house. So let's take a look at these, and we'll dive into email first. Outlook, we're all using it. In fact, we probably spend most of our day there. So you can use Outlook for your email management. You can manage and streamline your email communications with dedicated Matter inboxes. So here is a dedicated Matter inbox, Asher v. Mercy Hospital, exactly that SharePoint site that I showed you earlier. But everything is sort of siloed in this very manageable space in Outlook. You can see all those emails in there. You can see all of the files directly from Outlook. That's part of that space. Multiple access points, key here. So here's an email, it has a file attachment. It's already saved to the group library. I can't redo it, and neither can anybody else in my team. Here's another email with discovery issued. And I've got 2 attachments here, but I can save all to group library by one button. It doesn't matter if it's 1 attachment or 50 attachments. All of those attachments go into that document library in Asher v. Mercy Hospital. I can even see those files that were saved directly from Outlook without ever having to leave that environment. Right there in email attachments. And it knew where to save it because it was part of that dedicated Matter. I could rename those documents right from here, and I can move them to the correct folder that they go in, all right from Outlook. If you're using Outlook as an application on your Mac, you're not quite using the same Outlook that is available for Windows users and online. But you can see I have these email attachments. I've brought them in, I've renamed them if I need to, and I can save them in the folder that they belong in. And everybody has access to that information in real time. And that's what I mean by using these dedicated Matter inboxes. The email attachments folder is my new filing area, but I was able to bring those things immediately where they needed to go in the written discovery drafts. So moving on, let's talk about the calendar. Same tool, Outlook. So with using Outlook, you never have to miss a deadline with dedicated Matter calendars accessible to all team members right through Outlook in your calendar. Asher v. Mercy Hospital, back to that SharePoint site, that case calendar is published right there on the home page, completely accessible to my entire team. Could I go to Outlook and look at my calendar? Absolutely. And there are a ton of calendared events in there. Or I can come right here to Asher v. Mercy Hospital and take a look at that case calendar and see things that are coming up and things that have passed. All right, moving on to documents. We need document management. OneDrive is working for you in 2 ways. Both searchable and secure document management thrives in OneDrive. You have a OneDrive with Microsoft 365. Each of you do, it's yours and yours alone. And if you want to manually share that out, you can. But SharePoint is a shared drive space. Now, the document library is powered by OneDrive. The moment that you save documents in that space, it goes through OCR for text recognition. When you search, it's not just searching the title of your documents, it's searching the body of your documents as well. Even if it went through OCR for text recognition with Adobe prior to being saved, it goes through another process from Microsoft. So here's that document library powered by OneDrive. Sync up there, up at the top, is a very, very, very important feature. I'm a creature of habit. I like navigating through File Explorer. Don't make me wait for a web page to load. This is how you keep that from happening. By syncing the document library to your local machine, you have a 2-way sync that is constantly occurring. Whatever you change through File Explorer or Finder, it changes that in the SharePoint OneDrive space as well. You can set up alerts in these document libraries, and you see that I have some of these folders colored in blue. Those blue folders are tied to automation. When documents are saved in those folders, they are indexed. I know what pleadings were filed, who filed them, when they were filed, and I get an immediate hyperlink back to that document. So it's an incredibly efficient tool. And there up at the top, it says search this library because your library is completely keyword searchable. Moving on, let's go into tasks. I love Microsoft Planner. It's one of my favorite applications. And you can boost productivity and drive efficiency with Planner for task delegation and task management. So, going back to that SharePoint site and scrolling down, Planner is right here on the home page of this SharePoint site. And I've delegated a task right here to format discovery issued by the defendant. And that defendant's discovery came through to the email. And we saved those emails to the email attachments folder and put them where they needed to be. Now there's a task. We've got to tackle that. We've got to get it done, and we have to have it done by a due date. And if we go into that task a little bit further, we can even see those attachments are right there. It's right from the group library. We can have very organized conversations and comments about the task and how that task is going. And those comments will go to the person who delegated that assignment to you. You can send that, and it's available through recent activity in SharePoint, through recent activity in Microsoft Teams, and through Microsoft Planner. There is no single point to gain access to the information that you want. Get there faster wherever there is. Moving on, we have notes. And OneNote is my tool for that. That is turning your legal yellow legal pad into a searchable digital pad with OneNote. And it is the only application that is offered offline. Only application, which could be wildly important when you're billing by the hour. Going back to the fact that I'm a trial paralegal, I use an iPad. I bring that iPad into the court with me. We have our witness outlines in our individual iPads that we have. I have a stylus. I write in my OneNote notebook, and it turns that handwriting into text. And that text is searchable. Your handwriting isn't. So while I know there's true science in writing those things down for long-term retention, the OneNote notebook is completely searchable. You can connect it through SharePoint. You can connect it through Microsoft Teams, and it has an application available to you on your desktop and on your mobile devices. And so it's an incredible efficient tool to have. I dictate to my OneNote notebooks. If I had a meeting and I get in my car and I'm heading back to the office, dock that phone, click the dictate tool, and dictate to the OneNote notebook. That OneNote notebook is available in real time. So going into communication, Microsoft Teams, a lot of us know it. We use it. We talk to our team in it. I took all of my intra-office communications with my team out of my inbox where everything else goes and moved it into Microsoft Teams. So streamline your communication with teams using the group channels in Microsoft Team. Whenever you create a Microsoft Team or you create a SharePoint site with a team attached to it, you have a general channel for that team, and that's where you'll converse with one another. Teams is also my VoIP telephone solution, voice over IP. A couple years ago, when I went to St. Thomas and I was working from the beach, none of my clients were the wiser unless they heard the crashing waves in the background. Community. Community is key in our firms. And I talked about that intranet earlier and creating that team communication site for your firm that centralizes everything and serves as that hub for your firm. So create a go-to hub that keeps everyone connected, informed, and efficient. Each of you have an intranet if you have Microsoft 365. In fact, it was the very first SharePoint site that Microsoft gave you. And most people don't even know that it exists, but I want you to go and find it. I want you to go to www.yourdomain.sharepoint.com. And when you go to that space, you're probably going to see and find something a little bit like this. And that means that nobody in your firm has done anything with this space. If you try to go to this space and it says that you don't have access, then perhaps talk to your administrator. But I want you guys to leverage this space and start to modify it for your organizations. Bring your training in there, bring your documents in there, leverage this space for your people. You have it, utilize it. So I do have a blog article that I recently wrote on 10 tips in making SharePoint intranet work for you. There are 10 tips on there. Talk with your people, bring the documents in, talk about quick links, all the good things. And that is in the article. And I believe we're going to post that in the chat for you if anybody wants to navigate to that area afterwards. I want you to keep exploring, though. I want you to think about all the innovation that is available to you at your fingertips because there is so much more to explore. You've got Microsoft Lists for creating, or I'm sorry, for collecting and indexing data and tracking data. Microsoft List is hands down one of my top 3 applications. It is
Mm,
probably one of the most powerful applications that you have at your fingertips. And it allows you to track so many things that come into your file. You know, working in wrongful death like I do, I deal with a lot of medical records. There's so much volume in my cases. And Microsoft List helps me optimize, or I'm sorry, it helps me organize to optimize. It helps me organize my materials throughout the life cycle of my case. So later on, when that attorney asks me for the needle in a haystack, I'm getting there much faster by using Microsoft Lists. Microsoft Forms collect answers to questions internally, externally. I use it for intakes. I use it for collecting discovery answers for my clients. I use it internally for check requests and time off requests. There are so many useful, practical applications out there, and Microsoft Forms is one of them. Microsoft Stream for doing screen recordings for training. If you want to teach your people to do something, you have a couple of options. You can sit with them and teach them how to do it, or you can record an educational tool for them, publish it to your team communication site, and let your people know about it. And that's where you send them to go and find the training. Microsoft To Do. Microsoft Planner is great for task delegation and task management, but Microsoft To Do is incredible for a time management tool for your users. They need to manage their time to make sure that they finish the task that you delegated to them. And Microsoft To Do is an amazing tool for that. Microsoft Bookings for scheduling consultations. If anybody out there is using Clio Grow, I hate to burst your bubble, but they're using Microsoft Bookings and they just slapped an interface on top of it. It's actually more powerful than Calendly, but I use it to schedule consultations for my organization. I use it to book training for my team. They are able to book training with me through Microsoft Bookings. Incredible tool. Power Automate. That is a hard one for people, and I tell people I speak just enough geek to make me dangerous, but I am not fluent in any way. But Power Automate is an incredible tool that will help you decorate your house because it will help you automate workflows that you find quite tedious. You're going to build this house, you're going to move into this house, and you're going to live in this Microsoft 365 house and find out what it's fully capable of doing for you. And then it's going to be time to decorate that house. And Power Automate is where that lives. Please feel free to connect with me. Here's my website, here's my email, here's my LinkedIn, because empowering legal professionals to master Microsoft 365 isn't just my passion. It is a movement, people. I want to completely change the
mhm,
culture of the legal industry. Building your own tech stack is the solution for today's legal landscape. These all in one, out of the box solutions aren't really doing you any favors. I don't want to put you in a box. I want to empower you to build your own box. And I offer all sorts of training and solutions for that very purpose. And I think we're putting things in the chat for you guys to look at and use. If you're looking for a more automated solution, Arrow 365 is my automated solution for SharePoint. But Microsoft 365 is full of all of these tools for you to use for your unique processes and the way that you handle your cases and you want to work with your team. You can access your data 24/7 through a website, through a mobile application, through a desktop application. And more importantly, all of these applications run independently of one another, meaning that you're never without connection to that data. You can buy a box solution that slaps an interface on top of Microsoft 365 and they charge you for it. Or you can work with someone like me or SharePoint Maven or somebody else out there that can help empower you to build your own box and can help support your people using the practical applications that you're already paying for. I don't want to put you on a third party hamster wheel by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of things that you do with those third parties can be accomplished through Microsoft 365. And I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I want to encourage you guys to reach out to those professionals and go out there on YouTube University and start empowering yourself and your people with these very sustainable, practical solutions, tools at your fingertips. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Misty. That was just a ton of information in a short period of time. So thanks so much. Um, I, if there are a few questions in the chat, so let's, even though we're a little bit over time, we're going to stay and answer those. If you have any more, feel free to email or get them to us, and we'll answer everything that you say. So I'll go ahead and read these to you. So for OneDrive, are there storage limitations? We use Box. I believe storage limitations, unless you pay more, were why we moved from OneDrive to Box.
Yes, I think when it comes to storage limitations, when you take a look at that storage, you want to look at it as a two-part thing. It is document managed and storage solution. So with SharePoint, you have additional space. With OneDrive, you have space there. So everybody has space within their OneDrive. When you open up a SharePoint site, you have additional space there. The amount of space that you have available to you will be dependent upon the license that you have. I have an E5 license. I have 25 terabytes that are available to me. But if you have a Microsoft 365 standard license, then you have some limitation there in terms of that storage. You can purchase more storage from Microsoft 365. It is specifically a OneDrive plan. You don't have to purchase a whole new subscription or a new user, just a OneDrive plan. And I think they start at $10.
Thank you. So here's a question from Alicia. Misty, curious if you worked with Microsoft or with Dynamics 365. If so, what uses have worked well for you? We're discussing this with our IT team now.
Yes, Dynamics is kind of redundant of things that I use in other Microsoft 365 apps. To be honest with you, Dynamics, it can be incredibly expensive. I think the last time I was looking at it, it was around $1,500 per user. And so that was a huge limitation. A lot of people decide to go into Dynamics because they're looking for a better CRM solution. And if you are looking at Dynamics for a CRM solution, I would like to point you to Microsoft Lists. That is the application already under the Microsoft 365 belt as part of my license that I use to track consultations, who referred them, what type of injury they have, are there looming statute of limitations that I need to be concerned about, and making sure that there are triggers to stay connected with them and decline their case in the event there is a looming statute.
Thank you. So now Lynn is asking a question about the best way to start. Do you start a new case in MS 365 or transition all cases into MS 365?
It really depends on your practice. I think for me, I was spearheading the revolution. So call me Alice. I dove down the rabbit hole for many years, but I learned a lot through that process and what we can do and how we can execute day-to-day processes. I did not make this retroactive. That created a big hurdle for my people to do it. And instead, we did it going forward. That eased our learning curve and made it a little bit more manageable for all of us. So instead of, throwing everybody into the fire, we just sort of baby stepped into the solution. And you have the option to do it because you're already paying for it. We've never been able to sort of test this theory out and baby step into a solution. We just were thrown at the wolves. So, just baby stepping into OneDrive and then start learning how you can manage your notes through Microsoft OneNote and how you can manage your calendar better through Outlook, and just sort of baby stepping in to each one of those solutions will probably help ease your learning curve and possibly create better buy-in for your users if you're the one spearheading the revolution.
Yeah, we recommend that on the finance side a lot of times
Yeah.
also, just to start where you are, and
Yeah.
before you know it, a year later, you hardly know, you don't need all that other information a lot of times. So just, yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's smart.
The foundational tools are there. How you pull them together and the way that you use them makes all the difference in the world. And so I tell people that, SharePoint is this opportunity for you to customize that space. I have a SharePoint site for each one of my cases because that's the type of environment that I need for
Right.
civil litigation that takes a long time. But you can manage clients under a SharePoint that have multiple matters. Perhaps you're in trademark or IP or in real estate. You don't need a SharePoint site for each one of your clients. That's the unique part of SharePoint.
Love that. Love that. We do have one comment in the chat which says, my firm has slowly been creating SharePoint groups case by case. We started with our more active cases so we can evolve to see what will work with our small firm. So I think
Yes.
that's just,
Exactly. And
yeah,
and and that, innovating your own solutions in that way, you gotta go through it to get through it. You're not gonna know what it's capable of doing for you until you start to get in it. And so I tell people that that's why you shouldn't, like, just throw it all in there at once. You're not sure what works yet. Baby stepping into it is a great way to go.
yeah, love that. We did get one more question from Veronica asking, we are exploring a DMS and court calendaring all in one solution. Why do you recommend not having an all in one solution if it's more cost effective overall?
If it's more cost effective overall, I mean, I tell people you do you, boo. But a lot of things that I get from third-party solutions, I'm able to manage through Microsoft 365 using, that robust tool belt. For instance, rule-based calendaring is one of them. Law
I'm
Toolbox
glad you're
uses
addressing that because I was going
yes.
to ask you. Yeah,
Yes, Law Toolbox is one of those companies that offers rule-based calendaring, but they leverage Microsoft 365 to do it. They leverage Power Automate to do it. Sort of feel like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz because I was able to look behind the curtain and see what people were actually doing and how they were creating it. And because I know what I know now, I know that I can create it myself. You can create rule-based calendaring based on Excel, Power Automate, lists, and Outlook, all yourself. You just had another company innovate a way to do it instead of you sort of building that solution out yourself. A DMS, a document management solution, you can go with OneDrive, you can go with Citrix ShareFile, you can go with Box, but OneDrive was very redundant of what a lot of those other
right.
solutions were
Hmm.
providing me. So there was no reason to continue to pay for those things. All of those big expensive overhead costs had a direct result in what I was making.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think that a lot of people don't quite realize that. But if what you're doing is working well for you and is saving you money, keep doing you. But Microsoft 365 is something that a lot of people have anyway, and we'll certainly all have it by the end of October of next year, unless we're in Google. So we might
Right.
as well harness the power of something we're already paying for.
Got it. Got it. A couple more questions came up. So one of them is, so is OneDrive the document management system in M365 and not SharePoint?
It is Microsoft 365 has a OneDrive app. So it is part of that. Think of it like a neighborhood, and OneDrive is a house in that neighborhood. So OneDrive is working for you as an option for document repository for you and you alone. And that's what Clio leverages. They
Hmm.
will choose one person's OneDrive and that person has shared out with everyone. But with SharePoint, that's when you get that OCR for text recognition. That's when that process starts to happen and it's connecting that information with all of your other applications together. So I tell people that OneDrive was my last migration almost 10 years ago. I stopped
Mm,
moving.
mm, nice. So talk about a little bit about document management feature like versioning and things. Can Microsoft handle that sort of thing?
Yes. So one of the biggest reasons why they're making this huge transition is due to compatibility issues that a lot of their users are having. We have a Windows operating system. And some of us were using, Word for 2013 or 2016 or 2019. And when we shared those documents and tried to collaborate, formatting changed because compatibility issues came up. So
Hmm.
with Microsoft 365, basically what's going to happen is we're all going to be using the latest and greatest Microsoft 365 tool, Microsoft tool, and Word is one of those tools. So if you look up at the top of your Word application and you see the name of your document that is up there, you should see a little drop down icon right next to it. And if you click that drop down icon, you can click on version history and look at every single version of that document, when that document was changed, who changed that document. And so
Hmm.
we can restore previous versions if we need to. A lot of people who draft general releases and things like that, oftentimes they will restore old versions. And because they're like, well, we didn't like that change, we need to restore it back. Well, you can manually make that change or you can restore that old version.
Nice. Okay.
And so with the new Word, it makes it much more manageable and much more possible to do that.
Nice. One last comment here is from Sean. We can't recommend MS lists enough. Use it heavily in an IP law firm to track complex client cases.
Yes, Microsoft List. Oh my gosh. It
Hmm.
has my last trial notebook I created in an hour. Now don't get me wrong, I didn't have all those copies and hole punched and put in the notebooks within an hour, but we had the sort of index and everything that we were including in that trial notebook done. If you're tracking document production and evidence and things like that throughout the life cycle of the case using Microsoft List, your exhibit list, done. Your witness list, done. I mean, I think the shift that occurred with me in connecting SharePoint OneDrive and Microsoft Lists and being able to automate the indexing process was incredible because old school, we had these red wells with these folders and all the pleadings and the tabs, and we wrote the index out, and that's how we found things. And that's how we pulled things together for motions and whatnot.
Right, right.
But when you're using Microsoft Lists, that tool has so many more usefulness than just indexing the data. It can serve as a trigger for Power Automate, rule-based calendaring. If you put something in a cell, it could trigger a calendar event. It could trigger a planner task. It could trigger a document being created. Document automation is huge right now. If you have
Hmm.
the information existing in a Microsoft list and you have the Word document is existing somewhere in your tenant, like in your team communication site, you can use Power Automate to bring those things together and expedite the document creation process. So, Arrow 365, that case management automated solution, wasn't possible until Microsoft Lists came about. So, I,
Hmm.
I mean, I think if there's one tool I can recommend for people in catastrophic injuries, personal injury, workers' comp, IP, civil litigation, use Microsoft Lists. It's one of the best tools. I do have a mini course on that. Um, I don't think that I have that available to post in the chat right away, but I do have a Microsoft List mini course. And that course also comes with every single index that I use to track all the information in my cases, pleadings, liens, damages, document production, depositions, records, you name it, it's in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's all the questions we've got. We probably ought to let people get on with their days. We've run over a little bit, but
Your time is
Misty,
precious. It's an
yes,
unrenewable resource. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. That was a great job, and thanks for joining us, everyone. And we'll conclude the webinar at this point.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.